Actually, this is Math Anxiety Reduction. My name is Pete Wildman. I teach math here at the Falls, and I am going to talk a little bit to you about the idea of math anxiety. And it's a real thing. It's not something that's made up. And what I'm going to make you do, and this is a terrible thing to do to students when they arrive in, but you get to take this little test. See this thing that says Math Anxiety Self-Test? It's not a hard test. There's no math on it. Well, you have to add at the end, but we could do that. But this is one of these perception tests. So if you have that, did you all get that? One of those? It's right back here. And basically, there are about 10 questions. And I want you to just, number one, this is this little scale from 1 to 5. Number 1 means you really disagree with it. Number 5 means you really agree. Number 3 means you're kind of in the middle. So take a minute to do that. If you don't have a pencil, I even brought some of those. There's some back there. So take a minute to do that. So if you guys did this, how many of you scored like above 30? 30. Wow, okay. This is a 50-point test, and if you scored above 40, that probably means that you've really got some anxiety issues involved with math. If you scored between 30 and 40, means maybe you've got some anxiousness involved with math. And this is a little bit of a problem because what is math anxiety? Math anxiety is an intense emotional feeling about mathematics. I don't know. Do any of you, when you try to do your math, does it kind of make you sick to your stomach? Yeah? Do you get sweaty palms? Maybe you're just totally distracted when you're doing math? Those are some of the physical symptoms of what we call math anxiety. And math anxiety is just this intense emotional feeling about your ability to understand and do math. Now, it's really pretty common. Many students have math anxiety, and it's a problem. Why is it a problem? Well, how many of you might choose a major just because there's not a lot of math in it? Okay, now that could limit you a lot. Maybe there's something you'd really like to do, but you think, gosh, I can't do that because it's got too much math in it. Well, I think that's a problem because I know every single person in this room can do this. I've done a lot of math in my life, and I wasn't always the best in my math class when I started, but I decided I enjoyed it, and I overcame any concerns that I had about anxiety, and now I get to do math all the time, which I like. But you too can do that if you want to. Sometimes math anxiety is so severe that there's a physical reaction to this that maybe you need to get some additional help to. What are some of those symptoms? Well, some of those symptoms physically, if you get a stomach ache, you get sweaty palms, you're extremely distracted, you can't focus when you're trying to do math. Sometimes psychological reasons. Maybe you have a complete feeling of hopelessness. You open that math book, you try to do the homework, and you say, I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm going to spend 2 hours doing this, and I don't know what I'm doing at all. So it's just a feeling of hopelessness, a complete lack of focus. I've had students who, they're really good at one subject. I had a student who was excellent in biology, one of the superstars of the biology department. And he would never do his math because he just didn't like it. He didn't want to do it. He felt hopeless about it. So he left it to the end of the night, and then he was too tired to do his math. So he had some issues there. We tried to work through that. And one of the biggest problems that math anxiety causes you is a lack of confidence in mathematics. Truth be told, and let's not let this out of this room, okay? Chances are when you have a professional career, you're not going to be doing the type of math you do in school all the time. Even if you're a scientist, you're probably not going to be doing it all the time. That's true about most of the classes you take in college. You're probably not going to be doing every aspect of your science or psychology class. You'll probably be looking at some little specialization. So math is something that you can do, that you need to get over, that will be a useful tool for you. But you don't have to feel in mathematics that you have to perfect everything. And sometimes when we have math anxiety, we feel like that. So does this sound like you? Do you ever say things like this? I do not have a math mind. There's only one way to do math, and I can't do it that way. It doesn't work for me. I can't do math in my head. I still have to count on my fingers. Anyone have to count on their fingers? Okay, that's okay. That's okay. I want to talk about these. These are math myths. These are not true. None of these are true. I don't have a math mind. It is true that there are people more gifted in any field than another. Do you know somebody who knows how to play a musical instrument, just pick it up like that? Okay, I have a son like that. He can play a great number of instruments. Okay, I could play the saxophone as well as he could, but I'd have to practice a lot harder. And I'd have to want to play it as well as he could, okay, in order to do it. The same is true with mathematics. There's going to be somebody, come on in and sit down.
I don't want to sit behind you.
Anywhere you want, we can move a chair, whatever you want to do. Pull right up there. So there are some people who are better at math than others, but everybody in this room can do the math that we ask you to do. It just may be that it may take you a little bit longer, and that's perfectly okay. There's only one way to do math. That's not true at all. There are many ways to do math, okay? And there may be many ways to arrive at the same answer. And one of the things that most math instructors will look at is say, there's an alternative way to do this. And if that way makes sense to you, that should be acceptable. Do you feel slow at math? It takes you extra long time? I want to tell you something. Math is not a race. The purpose isn't to get done the fastest. What do the best math students do is they get it done accurately. They can get the correct answer. And if you can get the correct answer in a certain amount of time and the person next to you can do it faster but not do it correctly, you're still better. So if you can't do math in your head, you still have to count on your fingers. Those are good techniques. As you keep doing math, you'll get better at it. You'll get better, you'll learn how to do these things. Things will come a little bit quicker. If I got the problem right, I must be lucky. Do you ever say that? Okay. Well, that's discounting yourself, your own abilities, and you want to try to learn not to do that. So if you're doing some of these things, there is a cure for math anxiety, and that cure is success. Let me tell you a story. Do you like stories? Mm-hmm. Okay, years and years ago in the dark ages, okay, I was teaching at a high school, and I was teaching a calculus class, so these students knew what they were doing. And in this class walks the #1 student in the school. I mean, this is the valedictorian, way up at the top. 3 days into the semester, she comes up to me and says, you know, I'm just not good at math. And I look at her and I say, Anne, you've gotten enormously far. You must be pretty good at math, and from what I understand, you're pretty good at everything. And she said, you know, I had a bad experience last year in math. Something happened. You know, somehow something happened. And that may have happened to you, too. You could take some time and actually look in your background and say, well, this was the point where math started not to make sense to me. Whatever it was that happened, that could have happened. What we focused on that year with the student, and what I want you to focus on, is start to have a success. One successful test, what's that going to do to you? It's going to be like, yes, I just succeeded on that test, right? You're going to feel a little bit better. Your confidence level is going to go up. Each additional success you have will start moving you away from the cycle of being anxious. So the question is, how do you position yourself to reduce your math anxiety, okay, to be successful? Well, first of all, I want to talk about positive self-talk. And this is extremely hard. This is extremely hard to do, especially if you walk in here and you say, I'm going to put a 10 on that because 5 isn't enough. Okay? We have positive self-talk. The first thing I want you to say all the time is, it's just math. It's nothing more than a subject that you're studying right now. It's just math. It doesn't say anything about you, doesn't say anything about your intelligence, doesn't say anything about you as a student. It's just math. It's just a subject that you are taking, and it doesn't define who you are. Other thing, and this is absolutely true, thousands of people with the same ability as every person in this room have done well, mastered, gotten through the subject. You can do it too. Thousands have. I know that personally because I've met them. Thousands of you have, people just like you, have mastered this subject. So you can do it too. They were no more gifted or talented than you are, so you can do it too. Accept where you are. Don't feel embarrassed to say, I'm still learning how to multiply. Okay, that's good. That's good that you're learning how to multiply. Or, I'm still learning how to add my fractions. Well, that's good too. Accept where you are. Everybody has to be at a certain level. We're here at Spokane Falls Community College to help you where you are. Okay, we'll take you wherever you are in the spectrum of mathematics and try to help you get through those levels. So accept where you are. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed if you can't do something. That's okay. I studied German for many years, and I don't think I can say 3 words anymore. Okay, if I had to go back and do something in German, I would have to go back and study a whole lot in order to do that. I would have to go back and relearn a whole bunch of materials, and that's perfectly okay. Seek help. Where can you get help? Does anyone know? The Math Lab, or the Math Learning Center. We're going to talk about that resource in a minute. What else? Tutoring. There's free tutoring here. Okay, I just spent the hour before I came here with a peer tutor and a few students, and those students were getting some help from both of us for free, and that's great, right? In addition, if you need accommodations, maybe you have a physical or psychological issue that causes you to need some more time, you have disability services here that can help you with that. Please use your resources. You have lots of resources. Another resource is your professor. No matter how scary they are a resource, and they want you to talk to them. So they're an excellent resource for you to use for help. Don't compare yourself to others. Do you ever do that in math? You compare yourself to your neighbors? Does anyone do that? Okay, and that's really hard not to do. But don't compare yourself to others. You're not competing really against that person. You're competing against yourself. There isn't a set amount of A's or B's or C's in that class. There's a threshold, and you need to get over it. Okay, same as your neighbor does. And if your neighbor's done quickly, really looks like they know what they're doing, chances are they might not be. Okay, so don't compare yourself to them. Focus on your abilities. So I want you to take a pledge that you're going to do positive self-talk. None of this negative stuff in math, okay, while you're doing math. But luck also favors the well-prepared. So the best thing you can do in math is be prepared. Who ever reads their math book? If you want somebody to put you to sleep at night, that's a good thing to do. Math books are hard to read. Does anyone know why? Because math teachers can't write. Is that it? That's part of it. But there's another reason. Math is a very precise language. I heard somebody say as I came in here, you know, math is like a different language. Absolutely. And reading a math book is kind of like going home and reading a legal document. Have you ever done that? Oh, man. Read a document a lawyer creates. It is full of very technical language. It's very hard to read. I suggest you open your book and you read through it quickly. Read through it quickly. That gives you just a general idea of what this is all about. Okay, so you say, okay, today we're going to focus on graphing. I know that's going to happen in class. Well, you're one step ahead because you know what to expect when you walk into that classroom. If you wish, some students are very visual learners. They'll like to actually go back and read and take a little outline and pay particular attention to the vocabulary words, okay, the language of mathematics. I gave a test today. Terrible thing to give a test, right? One of my questions used a vocabulary word that about 4 or 5 people in the class didn't know. So they came over and asked me about it, okay? But they didn't know that vocabulary word, so we have to go back and talk about that vocabulary word and what specifically that means, because that is critical to understanding that. Visit your professors. In college, we want you to come. We're really bored in our office hours, I have to tell you that. Okay, we sit there, you know, well, we're not bored, but we want you to come visit us. So visit your professors. Some professors will take the initiative and say, you know, you didn't do so well. I don't want to pick on you, but you didn't do so well in that last test. Why don't we sit down and talk? And that's great if you have a professor to do that. But even if you don't, it's your right to go in and ask that professor for some additional help to do that. So visit the professor. There is no stupid question in math. There may be in other subjects. Ask. If you say, you know, we did this in class and I forgot how to do this, go right ahead and ask. Math Learning Center, who knows where that is? Math Learning Center is in building 18 with the clock, second floor, south wall. They are open 8:30 to 9, Monday through Thursday. That's 9 p.m. That's a long time. They're open 8:30 to 1:30 on Friday, and they're open 1 to 9 on Sunday. They have tutors in there all the time. If you go in there, even if you're not taking a class through them, you can take classes through them that are self-paced classes. But even if you're not taking classes through them, you can go in there and ask them questions. And they're more than likely to be able to help you. So they can give you some additional help. If you're here on campus and you've got some time that you set aside to do your homework, go ahead and do it in there. That's one option to do there. There are also peer tutors. You know about those? Yes? Building 24 usually, and there's a time schedule set up for them. You can go up there and get some tutoring help from individuals who have gone through the class like you. And then there's one thing different in math class than, say, in many of your other classes. In, say, sociology or psychology or even biology, you have to learn the concepts, and then on the test you kind of repeat the concepts back or recognize the concepts or write an essay or something. In math class, you have to learn the language and the concepts, and then you have to do something with them. You actually have to show a certain level of proficiency. And that one doesn't come without practice. What if you don't get enough practice? Well, ask your professor for more. They'll give it to you, okay? So, it's test or quiz day. Oh. Test and math day, how do you feel? Not good? Okay. If math is a problem for you, test day can be really difficult. What are some things you can do to help? Well, get enough sleep. Don't stay up all night. The other night, my wife made me get up at 3:30 to take her to the airport at 5. And I'm old, so I can't go back to sleep, but I go home. So in the middle of class, I'm like, oh gosh, you know, I'm really kind of losing it here. Trying to do math. It was difficult that day just because I didn't get a lot of sleep. Eat well before your test, okay? Stuff that's going to keep you going. When you enter the test, the very first thing you should do is immediately write on the test any formulas or information you were supposed to memorize. That you should do right away, somewhere. On the back, extra sheet of paper, whatever, you should do that. Because oftentimes in math class there'll be some particular focus on some formulas you're working with. Your instructor will often let you know what these are. If you write them down right away, then you can refer to them back in the test. You won't have to say, now what was that formula for volume, or what was that? If you write it down right away, if your instructor doesn't give you those, that's a really good idea to do with rate. Then, something you should always do in a math test. Don't start on problem 1. Take a quick look through the exam, and if there are problems that you say, ooh, I know how to do that one. Do it. Do those first, because that's going to build your confidence. Years ago, here's another story, okay? It's about me. It's not a good story either. Years ago, I was a student, and I was taking a physics class, and I didn't like physics very much. And I decided I wanted to do really well on the next physics test. And it happened to be the day before Thanksgiving. And not only did I have a physics test, I had a chemistry test, I had a math test, I had an English test, same day. Everybody wanted to give a test before Thanksgiving. Okay, fine. So I decided the week before, I'm going to spend most of my time on physics because I wanted to improve that grade and I wasn't as worried about the other ones. So I did. I spent a lot of time studying for this. I got to that test. It was the 4th test that day. So I was pretty tired. I can tell you that test could have been written in Japanese, and I had no idea what any of it said, and it was because the first problem was a difficult one. So it kind of freaked me out. I kind of got, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do anything in this. I went on this big cycle, and I didn't do very well on that test. When I got it back, I looked, if I had looked at problem 2 or 3 first, those I would have known how to do more effectively, and then I could have gone back to problem 1 and maybe had a better shot at it. So I suggest skimming your tests, look for what's easy first, then go back and do this. Don't worry if you can't get everything done. We are math perfectionists. You get upset if there's a problem you can't do. I gave an extra credit problem today. It was monstrous, right? A lot of students say, oh, I just couldn't get that extra credit. Okay, it was extra credit. You know, you didn't have to get it. If there's one problem you can't get, that's not though. Usually there's 20, 30 problems on the test, so that's not necessarily the end of the world if you can't get one here. Don't overcheck. You might go through a test if you're well prepared. You go back and redo the problems again. Research has shown that oftentimes you erase the right answer. So don't overcheck. Okay, maybe do one check, but don't feel like, oh, I got to go back and check it again, because you're increasing your chance of making a mistake to do that. Practice anxiety reduction techniques. If you really do feel sick to your stomach, if you really do get distracted, there's some things you can do. You can do some slow, deep breathing. If you're somebody who gets really distracted, ask disability services about testing you to have a distraction-free environment. Many teachers will give you that anyway if they think that you need it. They'll allow you to do this in a distraction-free environment. That can be helpful to you. And reward yourself for a job well done. When you do something good in math, say, hey, I did something good in math today. I'm going to go reward myself, whatever that is. No, buy a milkshake, well, or something. So reward yourself for that. Now, after the test, you get the test back. What do we do with our tests when we give them back? Burn them? No. It might be throw it in the pile of tests and other junk you have, right? One thing you could do is you could sit down with your professor and talk about it. And that takes courage a little bit. But if you review it with them, it gives you some insights into what some things you could do next time. Ask for advice on how to do better. Ask for additional problems on areas you might have difficulty understanding. Sometimes you've done a lot of the problems in the book. You want to, if the professor says this is an important concept, go ahead and ask for additional problems. And don't give up or give in to negative thoughts. I don't let students in my office say, I just can't do this. Yes, you can. You can do this, okay? Those thoughts aren't allowed, because as soon as you start doing that, you're in a cycle here. Now, I want you to look at the last page of this little handout I gave is this list. Looks like this. And it's the Student Bill of Rights in math. Okay? I don't know. I should make you stand up and raise your right hand or something like that, right? Should I? What do you think? No, you don't want to. Look at that. I tell you. But let's go through these. I have the right to learn at my own pace and not feel put down or stupid if I'm slower than someone else. Okay, that's true. Okay, talk about that with your professor if you're having trouble with that. I have the right to ask questions. I have, absolutely, in math. Whether that's in class, outside of class, write an email, whatever. I have the right to need extra help. I had a professor tell me if it's worthwhile studying, you aren't necessarily going to get it the first time. And I had to think about what that means. But if you think about what that means in most of your subjects, you have the right to need extra help, to have the concept explained again. You have the right to ask the teacher or tutor for help. You have the right to say, I don't understand. You have the right to not understand. It's okay to not understand. Again, it might be a difficult concept. You have the right to feel good about yourself regardless of your abilities in math. You have the right not to base my self-worth on my math skills. I have the right to view myself as capable of learning math. I have the right to evaluate my math structures and how they teach. I have the right to relax. It's a lot easier if you relax when you do your math. I have a right to be treated as a competent person. I have the right to dislike math. That's okay. It makes me sad. But that's not an excuse for not doing it. Okay? I have the right to define success on my own terms. So, as part of this handout and part of this presentation, this gives you some tips on how to deal with your math anxiety. I'd like to take any questions you guys have about anything, or or comments or anything. Nothing? I've blown you all away? We can sing math songs. I sing math songs in my class, so we could do that if you want. But okay, so thank you, everyone. And we will see you in math class.